Coordinates and portal address are the way we navigate to specific points in No Man's Sky, but unless you know exactly how they work, they can be very confusing and kind of useless to you. There are various tools around to help you make things easier, but if you fully understand how the system works, it is quite useful and satisfying to know you can meet up with a friend, go and see that awesome planet everyone is talking about, or find that S-class exotic that spawns in so very few systems and be the one to gift its location to the world. We'll start with the coordinates, a 16 character alphanumeric code that is split into 4 parts of 4. You know it's a coordinate, but how does that translate to an X, Y, Z? Firstly, the parts are in order X, Y, Z and then system number. The X, Y and Z refer to a region in space. These regions have names on the galactic map such as Shunga Void, which is one of the Euclid Galactic Hub official regions. The regions then have multiple star systems within, usually a few hundred, and that is what the last part refers to. The regions defined by the X, Y and Z coordinates being the same as the named regions is a logical jump I've made. I have not confirmed this, whether this is correct or not does not make any difference when staring at the numbers, but would specifically matter when attempting to locate a specific system index on the in-game galactic map using the named region as a control. It is quite logical to assume that this code refers to a specific planet, but it does not. It refers to the system only. Each system then has a sub-coordinate system basing itself on the planets within it, and not the overall space. But we'll get to that shortly. First, we need to know what the coordinates alphanumeric code actually is. That brings us to hexadecimals. Hexadecimal, also known as hex or base 16, is a numerical system. To compare it to the decimal system of 0 to 9 having 10 characters, the hexadecimal system has 16 with 0 to 9 and additionally A, B, C, D, E and F, which represent 10 to 15. As far as what is used instead of the system that just about the entire world is fluent with, it's pretty much a case of ease. Hex is far more user friendly to deal with for programmers, as each hex character represents 4 binary characters. 4 binary characters is a bit. A byte is 2 bits, meaning a byte is 8 binary characters or only 2 hex characters. That's enough for why they use it. Now how do you read it? Well, you now know what each hex character represents. That's easy. The annoying part is translating a multiple character string of hexadecimal to decimal. We'll start with a super simple 2-digit hex code of 6D. To introduce you to the system, then move to a much larger string. For 6D, we'll take the last character and work backward as you would with decimal. This is D. D represents the number 13. You then multiply 13 or D by 16 to the power of 0. A power is a multiplicative of itself, so 16 to the power of 2, or 16 times 16, is 256. 16 to the power of 10, or 16 times 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 16, is 1,999,511,627,776, which is interesting, as it is how many bytes are in a terabyte. When 16 to the power of 0 is introduced in hexadecimal, it is considered to be 1. This simplifies our last character being D as 13 multiplied by 1, so the first character is 13. This seems like a big waste of time to bother translating the lowest character past turning D to 13, but it will help to introduce a system. The previous character is 6. This of course represents 6 in hex, but as it is the second to last character you must multiply this by 16 to the power of 1. Which is 6 multiplied by 16. 6 multiplied by 16 is 96. Now we've translated the individual characters, you just sum the results up and you have your translation. As 13 plus 96 is 109, so 6D equals 109. So let's do a huge number and I'll just randomly think of one. 3A7B55C204. You just know this is going to be ridiculous, but fun. So if you feel you have a basic grasp, pause the screen and do the translation. Feel free to use a calculator to help with the individual powers and sums. So let's do this super speedy style. 4 multiplied by 16 to the power of 0 is 4. 0 multiplied by 16 to the power of 1 is 0. 2 multiplied by 16 to the power of 2 is 512. C multiplied by 16 to the power of 3 is 49,152. 5 multiplied by 16 to the power of 4 is 327,680. 5 multiplied by 16 to the power of 5 is 5,242,880. b multiplied by 16 to the power of 6 is 184,549,376. 7 multiplied by 16 to the power of 7 is 1,879,048,192. A multiplied by 16 to the power of 8 is 42,949,672,960. And 3 multiplied by 16 to the power of 9 is 206,158,430,208. Then sum it all up equals 251,177,320,964. If you compare that to the original hex string and then even octal binary, the string is nice and short with hex. Now that you know how to translate hexadecimal strings into decimal, let's take a look at the coordinates you've got in front of you. As the example, we'll use my home system. WHUE 044B 0081 0D58 0096. For anyone who is unsure, to get this data string, simply place a signal booster anywhere on a planet in your system of choice and it will display the coordinates. The first part is 4 or 5 letters, and I've not been able to figure this out. I theorise it is mapping coordinate for the planet location either in the system or the planet itself. Either way, it changes based on where you place it. You are limited to one signal booster per location. The location is not defined by a perimeter around the booster placed, but a specific small region on the planet. I suspect this is a 3D grid of sorts. The fact that it changes based on where you place it, as well as when removing and replacing in the same place, the code is the same. But when removing and placing just to the side, but still within the defined region limit, is different, has me boggled. The area defines this limit, not the booster, but the area covers more than a subregion defined by the code. If anyone has information on this, I would be very grateful. Coming back to this during the edit, I have thought of another possibility. It could very well be merely an ID that is randomised using the location you place it as the random number generation. By doing this, you would have less processes, not many less, but less, and this would account for the ID being the same if you replace a signal booster in the same location. The second part is the X coordinate, the third part is the Y coordinate, and the fourth part is the Z coordinate, leaving the fifth part as a system index. If we now ignore the first alpha string and translate the remaining 4 hex parts, we get 1099, 129, 3416 and 150. You then need to apply shift. This makes a galactic core 000. For X and Z the shift is negative 2047 and for the Y the shift is negative 127. So if we apply this shift we get minus 948 by 2 by 1369 with the system index 150. This gives us the galactic coordinates. This is how your coordinates are listed in your save files. They use the shift. I imagine this is to apply effects and modifiers based on distance to the core, like higher chances of planet biome types or ship slot count, etc. But of course this is just logical speculation. Hexadecimal code doesn't work too well with negative figures, so this explains the implementation of a shift to begin with. Before we get to turning galactic coordinates into a portal address and vice versa, there are a few useful things to bear in mind regarding the size of the galaxies in No Man's Sky. Each galaxy is 4096 by 256 by 4096. As far as data goes, it is a cuboid. Various images of the corners of the galaxy have been observed to see a solid barrier. Each of these points is a region containing 512 systems. The regions are defined by an 8x8x8 grid, though none of these regions and systems are equally spaced in the galactic map, so this is a purely BTS data appearance. I theorise the galactic map uses a simple modifier to give you a funky shaped region at different distances, resulting in clusters of systems that shine brightly, giving you a more realistic feel when traversing the galaxy. So there are a maximum 2.2 trillion systems in each galaxy. Each system has the ability to contain 15 planets. Why not 16? Well, the first hexadecimal is 0, and it does not play a role in noting a planet. It is the space station's planetary index. It is also the index noted when in your freighter. I suspect it uses a space station's location to define your and the freighter's location. While there could be a potential 15, I've never confirmed more than 6 planets or moons within a system. A moon, of course, is just considered a planet with regard to the index. I seem to remember seeing more than 6 in some systems, but I cannot confirm this. You may wonder where the 18 quintillion number came from. I did write a whole big thing going through the numbers of what we actually have, and to be honest it was long-winded and kind of pointless. The reality is that we don't have that many planets. The potential for that is there, kind of. The number comes from there being a potential 2 to the 64th seeds, so 18.4 quintillion unique planetary possibilities. There are a suspected 256 different universes. It is tough to find fully reliable confirmation on this being the maximum, but it is thought to be. Now for portal addresses. A portal address is a 12-character string comprised of a combination of 16 different glyphs. If you didn't know before, you have probably realised after our extensive bout into hex code that each symbol represents a hexadecimal character. The glyphs are always in order wherever you look from 0 to F, sunset being 0 and Pythagoras being F. Forgive my assigned names to the glyphs, hopefully they won't be too confusing. A portal address holds all of the information that a galactic coordinate holds, except with the addition of the planetary index allowing you to pinpoint a specific planet within a specific system within a specific region of a galaxy. It is not currently possible to use the gates to travel between galaxies, but that would be a beautiful feature to add in the future, maybe having very rare planets holding special portals that can do this. I would love for them to make it one per region, so 1 in 512, theoretically, which, if you add the number of planets, would make finding one a very big deal, and many people would converge to those points. It's also worth noting that a 14 symbol address would be required for this. Right, back to the addresses. They are broken up into 5 parts. The first symbol is the planet index. The second, third and fourth symbols are the system index. The fifth and sixth symbols are the Y coordinate. The 7th, 8th and 9th symbols are the Z coordinate, and the 10th, 11th and 12th symbols are the X coordinate. The first symbol being the planetary coordinate is super simple. As we covered earlier, the space station or general system is regarded as the 0 index, which means the first glyph cannot be used to pinpoint a portal in the first symbol of the address. If you do select the sunset glyph as the first symbol of the 12, the connection will error and then send you to the first planet by default, which is denoted by the second glyph, which is 1 in hex. So to simplify, bird is the first planet, face is the second. So when picking the planet index for addresses, just count along the glyphs and add 1. For the rest of the address, we learned earlier how to get your galactic coordinates to decimal form and apply the shift, while to gain a portal address is a slightly different method and shift. If we use my home planet as the example, ignoring the planet index for the moment, we get 044b, 0081, 0D58 and 0096. We then don't translate this to decimal at all. The calculations of this are done in hex. You could do it in decimal like I have had to for the calculations on my tools, but it requires more steps. We add a shift of 801 to the X and Z coordinates and 81 to the Y. Remember that this shift is also hex. If you convert those for laughs, they are similar to the decimal shifts added to find the decimal coordinates, except you apply 2 more to each shift, as it is a sort of backward shift. So if we apply this shift, we get 0C4C, 0102, 1559, 0096. Then we must rearrange those parts, put the system index first, the Y next, the Z after that, then the X last. Then we need to shorten them a little, and it will seem somewhat illogical to remove more than just the initial 0 padding. Take the system index to 3 characters, the Y coordinate to 2, then the Z and X coordinates to 3, which will give us 096025595C4C. You may wonder why we got rid of the 1 from both the Y and Z coordinates. Well, due to the shift, there is no overlap due to the scope of the galaxy, so this is not a problem. Then we add the portal number, which is the planet index. I've seen a very helpful post on Nexus Mods warned to not confuse the two, but in all of my experience fiddling around and testing this stuff, I've seen no difference between the planet index and portal number. Put the planet index as a single character at the front. Then just remove the colons and convert each individual character to a glyph using this handy decoder. Either that or count from the first and minus 1. Sunset is 0, common moon is 4, Pythagoras is F, etc, etc, and you get this. Diplo sunset swirly boat sunset face waypoint swirly TP common moon TP, which is my home planet address. Feel free to pop by and say hello or leave a comm station by the way. The comm station you can see a waypoint for from the portal is my base. To get the galactic coordinate from a portal address is not as simple as reversing it due to those numbers we got rid of earlier. Simply decode the glyph sequence, break those up into 1, 3, 2, 3 and 3. Now we need to recover those lost digits in a way that could be consistently applied across the board, otherwise you won't get the correct result. So follow this rule for the Y coordinate, which is the third part as we have broken it up here. If it is 80 or below, then apply a 1 in front, making it 180. For the Z and the X coordinate, which are the last two parts, if it is 800 or below, apply a 1 in front, making it 1800 at most. This is because, say for the Y coordinate, we are limited to 2 characters, but the highest Y coordinate possible in No Man's Sky Galaxy with the portal address shift applied is 180. So the 1 must be dropped, and the lowest is 81. So if it is 80 or below, then it must require the 1 in front. The same reason, just with an extra character, applies to the Z and X. Remember that this whole process of the portal address translation so far has been in hex. Even though we're mostly talking with 81 and 801 as the shifts etc, it is easy to forget that 81 in hex is very different in decimal, being 129. If we apply this rule, we get 309610215559C4C. Then drop the first part, as that is a planetary index and not included in the galactic address, giving you 09610215559C4C. Let's apply the shift next. So take the Y coordinate, which is the second part, and subtract 81, remembering that this is still all hex. Then take the Z and X coordinates, which are the third and fourth parts respectively, and subtract 801. Then pad the parts. This is just adding a 0 before the number to make each part 4 characters. Be sure to pad them in front so as to not change the value of the strings. Then lastly, rearrange the coordinates so they are in the required order for a galactic coordinate, which is XYZ system index. And there you have it, the original coordinate we started with. Once you have this from a portal, you can apply the previous translation we did before to turn a galactic hex coordinate into a decimal coordinate, which can be used to see your location in a visible spectrum or even edit your save file if you're into that kind of thing. If you've made it this far, I applaud you. While this is an interesting subject, especially so to me, I found myself often exhausted wrapping my head around everything over the past few months. It seems the internet does not have all of this information in one place, and its explanations are not in tune with my mind. I hope this has been at least somewhat viable to comprehend. Now, before you head off and take a painkiller for the headache you likely have, while this is interesting and very useful for the travellers of NMS, for the day-to-day calculations you'll likely want something easier on the brain. So I've done my usual thing and made a few calculators on zanesworld.com. You can find a quick hexadecimal to decimal calculator at zanesworld.com/hex, as well as a calculator which gives you all the information like decimal coordinates, portal address and galactic hex coordinates for a hex coordinate, portal address or decimal coordinate. Whichever you have, it will show you all the rest at zanesworld.com/galactic-calc. All the links can be found in the description. Thank you for watching, folks. If this helped you, be sure to hit that like button and share with your fellow travellers. Subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe think about checking out my Patreon. $1 a month is a great way to support the channel and my work such as this. But above all, have an awesome day, folks.